Fast and Furious 11 is set to be the final installment in the beloved action franchise, but there are some problems that it will need to overcome in order to live up to the high expectations. Little is known about Fast 11, but it will seemingly be a continuation of the story that was put forward in Fast X, with Jason Momoa's new villain Dante looking for revenge against Dom and his crew. But after the disappointments that came with Fast X, the series will have to make a dramatic U-turn to reclaim the many fans who have lost interest. The Fast and Furious franchise began way back in 2001, and it's been growing bigger and bigger since then. With larger stunts, bigger budgets, and more recognizable faces, Fast and Furious has quickly become one of the most reputable action franchises of the century. But it's no secret that very few of the recent sequels have actually found critical success. If Fast 11 wants to serve as a fitting goodbye for the Fast and Furious characters, it will need to go back to the series' roots, instead of continuing down the path that it's been on. Fast and Furious 11 cannot go bigger than Fast X after Part 1's problems. That would be a major misstep. Vin Diesel as Dom Toretto looking in the rearview mirror in Fast X. In order to reach its full potential, Fast 11 needs to end the tradition of each sequel getting bigger and bigger in terms of stunts and action. While the huge set pieces and big-budget explosions are always fun to watch, they've been the main problem for the franchise in recent years, as it struggled to find an identity outside of being an action spectacle. Fast 11 has the much-needed opportunity to ground itself in the franchise's roots, focusing on the characters and their relationships instead of throwing as much money as possible toward the visual effects. Fast X's main problem was that beyond the explosions and car chases, the story was essentially non-existent. This was marketed as the final chapter in the saga, but audiences were given very little reason to care about this journey. These final films should focus on the characters that have been present since the beginning, rounding off their arcs in satisfying ways and ensuring that they're given the goodbyes that they deserve. There are many exciting things to expect from Fast 11, but replacing these with huge stunts will only ruin the film. New Fast and Furious movies have been bigger than the previous ones for decades. It's slowly becoming a trend. This trend of raising the stakes and increasing the drama of Fast and Furious movies is one that's been around for the past decade. It's a problem that's rooted itself in the franchise and fundamentally forced the filmmakers to drift away from the grounded storytelling of the first films and write themselves into knots over the returning characters and fan service retcons. While this worked for a while, with movies such as Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6 admittedly saving the series from extinction, it's now gone too far. Furious 7 effectively towed the line between family drama and all-out action spectacle, but when that film performed so well at the box office, it sent the wrong message to the studios behind it. From there, the films have embraced their goofy, off-the-wall action and lost the grounded nature that audiences initially invested in this franchise for. The most recent Fast and Furious movies have retconned deaths, burned down relationships, and suspended reality so dramatically that they're almost unrecognizable from the first few movies. Fast X's budget proves Fast and Furious has become too big for its own good. The final movie must take a step down. Jason Momoa as Dante Reyes with outstretched arms in Fast X. The most obvious reason for this decrease in quality is the franchise's increased budget. Ever since Furious 7 worked its way toward the top of the highest-grossing movies ever made, the budget has risen dramatically. This gave way to more stunts, more explosions, and more cars, but less storytelling. It's a problem that's been present ever since the fate of the Furious, but it didn't become as overwhelmingly obvious until Fast X. The film seems unsure of itself, never quite aware of what audiences want from this story, and the only solution is to get bigger, bolder, and more brash. To an extent, this covers up the cracks in the storytelling, but it doesn't hold up well under scrutiny. Dante's over-the-top personality is enough to keep audiences invested from start to finish, but there's no emotional weight to the story. At least Furious 7 had the focus on Paul Walker's character, Brian O'Connor, to give it some depth, but Fast X doesn't have that. It merely assumes that the audience is going to care about what's happening, just because it's big and superficially exciting, but it doesn't go beyond that. Fast and Furious 11 should be a much smaller movie than Fast X. To go forward, it has to go backward. Fast X Hobbs returns 5. However, that doesn't mean that Fast and Furious can't go back to what it was. There are still multiple things that Fast 11 can do in order to get back on track and provide a satisfying conclusion to this epic franchise. While it's typical for the final movie in a series to be the most explosive and high stakes, this should be the opposite for Fast and Furious. The saga has spent so much time with car chases, action set pieces, and big-budget showcases. Now is the time to slow down, get out of the cars, and settle the score between the characters. The cliffhanger ending of Fast X saw Dom Toretto and his son in mortal peril at the hands of Dante, just before the villain revealed that Dwayne Johnson's Agent Hobbs was next on his list. Thankfully, this can easily be resolved in the first act of Fast 11, leaving plenty of room for the crew to end Dante's vendetta and pull all the narrative threads together in a way that doesn't feel rushed or forced. There's plenty of time for Dom, Letty, and their friends to bring their respective journeys to a happy ending without spending the whole film fighting Dante.